Hey, this is Max Alper, aka Peretsky, and you are listening to Group Critique Fight Club. Beep, 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 beep. We back. You have been listening to Alex Zhang Hung Tai, formerly known as Dirty Beaches, now going under his own name. A man of many talents, buddy of mine. Alex, if you listen to this at any point, I still owe you a show to book. In the near future, go check out on Criterion the film Godland. He did the score for it. He's just doing this spacious, reverberant saxophone improvisations over a decadent, beautiful Icelandic landscape, moody film. Good shit. Good shit. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Group Critique Fight Club Night School Edition. Hanging and banging. Yes, Godland is goated. At least I knew somebody would feel me on that. Yeah, that's Alex Hung Tai on the saxophone. What do we got? We got a week to go for the monthly project series for this month with our guest facilitator, Joshua Eustis, a.k.a. Telefon Tel Aviv. Get your questions in for him, too. He did orchestration and string arrangements for Marty Supreme, y'all. Upcoming Timothy Chalamet banger, right? Josh Safdie, 10 Tricks Point Never. All your faves. All your faves in one place. Ask away. He's a good guy. But you got to get in. I'm prioritizing those that are participating in the project, not just those with questions. So get your speculative scenes in. Remember, we need a who, what, where, and why for your 5 minutes of speculative film score. So provide us with some speculative context before we imagine your world. Some good stuff. Some good stuff there. Obviously, submit your work before a week from now on the Discord. Cool. All right. Let's get into some music for today. We got some good ones. I have something that's in there I wanna present for a compilation that I'm coming on for a cool organization. But before we get to the music itself, once again, big shout outs to the homies. You know them, you love them. Our friends at Tape Trade, providing our technical infrastructure for our beautiful in-browser playlist, which I've decided to just have as be every month. We're just going to have a big mega list, big archive that we could keep public. I haven't turned on the downloads. I don't know if y'all want me to do that or not, if you want to give people access to the files themselves or just so they can have the link to it. You tell me. I can turn on the downloads at any time. But once again, shout outs to the homies for supporting the show at Tape Trade. We got some cool ideas in the works, but genuinely people on the right side of history. And I think that this, again, I'll say it every fucking week, man, like, we got to get back to a subculture, and that includes how we operate on the internet and within what platforms do we operate on. And, I think there was something really special about file sharing your own music on the early fucking media fires and mega uploads and stuff like that. But God knows what they were doing with that data. The amount of data that MediaFire has on me from like 20 years ago plus, I got an entire tranche, or they do. They have an entire tranche on me. Tape Trade does not keep a tranche on you. So hit them up. I'm going to put a free promo link in the show description on the pod version of this. So yeah, hell yeah. We got some music from you coming at ya today. Looking on the Discord who's sharing what and when. We got ourselves a new participant, and I'll read what they wrote. Hi everyone, I'm EDIE and I'm based in Berlin and involved in a few music projects here. Hello EDIE. Welcome to my world. Welcome to this here fight club. You're stepping right up to the plate. I love it. I appreciate you sending your work right away. You know, it takes a bold person to send links and want to participate in that. So shout outs to you. You continue to write. I've been following Peretsky for a while. Thank you. And that's how I ended up joining this Discord. Hell fucking yeah. I'm not totally sure if any genre is welcome here. Feel free to let you know. I'm letting you know any genre is welcome here. Boom. Let the record show. Genre agnosticism. There's beauty everywhere. Let's get one thing straight. I keep cutting off what you wrote. But I just released this track last Monday, and I'd love to share it with you. Hell yeah. Fresh off the presses. Shimmering Waters from EDIE. Let's go. Oh yeah. Hell fucking yeah. You know, this is good. This is what we need right now, because there is what has become and described as what you might know as lo-fi, bastardized term of music categorization. What you might refer to as lo-fi has become like the most enslopified and shitified, sloppy fucking generative AI, Suno, Udio. It is just the easiest target because of the chill playlists, right? The passive music culture That girl, that anime girl, that GIF, she's been studying for over a decade now, and there's been billions of views. But this genre is ultimately rooted in Dilla time and Dilla style of production, but it has combined with a sort of blasé, chill, smooth jazz, or pretty piano, non not really evoking anything, flat sort of accompaniment of a harmonic production that's involved, or instrumental production that's involved. And I think that's what makes so much of that world just ignorable as a utility. So contemporary producers that find themselves children of, would consider themselves children of Dilla, have to find ways to push back against this normalization of passivity in within this world of Dilla time style production, which you are beginning to do here. You know what I mean? Like there is a focus here specifically that I love on the drums, and I'm curious as to how much of this is fully just found samples of nice and slow sort of break beats. Yes, also included Nujabes, I believe they're pronounced, and Prefuse 73, also of that. Yeah, Nujabes specifically, I would say, very in part also responsible for the anime correlation to the lo-fi aesthetic because of his scores for Samurai Champloo and whatnot. There's just an association there because of Japan. But anyways, how do we get back to those pioneering sort of sounds, which we do not consider passive listening experiences? In fact, quite the opposite, very active. And to me, it's like the active listening happens in the drums. There's a conscious choice of very subtle changes that are occurring throughout. And I was, again, going back to what I was saying, I'm curious about the process of production with that, because it feels very live, it feels very, very, even as samples go, unquantized, this true Dilla time technique, whether it be, live by hand finger drumming or full loops that are in some ways, chopped or processed by you, or is there, are you playing drums on this? It'd be curious to hear, because you seem very tapped in to the pocket, not needing much if the pocket is leading here. I will say, though, in classic, if we're going to be a Dilla time traditionalist here, it's not just about the MPC, it's also about the Moog. It's also about the bass, the low end instrument that is holding us down at the tonal center here. And there really is only kick drums there. There isn't really a low end instrument providing a bass line or a progression or even just the bottom note of the chords. So it'd be good to fill out. It'd be cool to fill out that a bit more instrumentation wise, including a low end instrument to as I'm often saying, like hugging the subs, that get a fucking mini Moog ass sound on there. Turn that filter way down, scoop that filter down, let it just be really warm, occasionally just like bring up that resonance on there. I think Dilla's Moog is in the Smithsonian. His MPC and Moog specifically donated there. I'm not sure. It's at the Smithsonian African American History section. Curious if, shit. Trump blowing up all sorts of shit. Curious how under fire that specific, for obvious reasons, that specific museum is right now, because there's some cool ass shit in there. But yeah, bass. Bass would be good. Bass would be good. Hell yeah. Thank you, EDIE, for stepping up to the plate. Loving the ducking. You don't need any critiques from me as far as like how to get that aesthetic of, straight from the SP404, aesthetic saturation, digital saturation that so much of that early sound has. I'm an SP404 guy. I'm not not an MPC guy. I've owned plenty of the Rolands in my day, and they have their own quality to it. So I would love to know more about your process in general, wherever you happen to be in the world. All right. Good stuff. Thank you. What else we got? DJ Breathplay. They write to us once again. When I'm producing dub techno, I often put very slow random LFOs on parameters as a placeholder for later when I use a controller to record automations for them by hand. I like the sense of indifference literal random numbers added to this track, and I not only left them in, but added more RNG elements like note chants. I've been doing some thinking lately about the way generative AI, which I hate, have never used, and will never use, has changed my relationship to mechanistic. How do I pronounce it? Machinistic, and algorithmic aesthetics. I've loved living in the uncanny valley, but they're fucking gentrifying it and it sucks. Yes. I don't have any conclusive answer on this, but I do think raw random numbers can be a part of it, a form of inhumanity that's clearly inhuman and not pretending to be anything else. No, I agree. I think that there's a lot to be said about, is it just worth getting into is it pedantic to distinguish to some normie the difference between a Gen AI piece of electronic music through something like Suno versus generative instrumentation that has existed for decades at this point, arguably since some of the earliest forms of electronic music, almost a century old at this point. Is it like, at what point does it matter to these fucking people? And what point, is it just too gentrified, as you say, to even bother anymore? I used to say, in the case of like AI and trying to distinguish yourself, or at least just trying to distinguish yourself amongst not AI, just other people, that it doesn't matter if you're trying to like reinvent the wheel or do something uniquely yours. It's okay if you just want to make a band that sounds like the Ramones, or just want to make a band that sounds like Bob Marley or whatever the hell. But now it's like, no, unfortunately the cat and mouse game is here, and like it is on us, unfortunately, until this shit gets regulated by a strongman communist government and we never hear from this again. Until that happens, it's on us to like find ways as composers to be, one step ahead of what the machine would expect. I don't know what that entails beyond finding unique ways of combining influences and not remaining steadfast in a single lane of influence, but not even necessarily rolling the dice and throwing something completely out of the ordinary, but just that one other combination of something, even if you're 99% of one zone, that one extra percent that just is an influence from some or other place that just you wouldn't expect necessarily, that just makes it uniquely you. And I would hope that there could be at least some progress made there as far as the progression of music in the face of this gentrification of generative music, of electronic music, and instrumental various things. It's a bummer, and I wish we didn't have to be playing a game of cat and mouse, but we do. Anyways, I would say amongst friends, don't feel like you need to veer away from number-based, the utilization of probability in your generative works. We will, as we say in Yiddish, mir will sein überleben, which means we will outlive them. this will pass, okay? Keep making your generative music if you want. All right. Caesar by Breathplay. Let's go. You didn't think you'd get some Yiddish in there, but you got it. Hell yeah. Hell fucking yeah. What'd you say before you say make it longer? There's a 12-minute extended dub version. Yeah, gonna need that. Where's that? Where's that? Why you bogarting that? Why you bogarting that 12-minute mix? Come on now. Come on now, hand it over. Post that in the Scored. Por favor. Fantastic. Very much enjoying this sort of confluence of like I am in the machine, like both random numbers, sort of generative elements of randomness, as well as this sort of spark plug, no input, sort of sputtering percussive effect that we're hearing here. Very much enjoying these elements, and then combining that with like true to form underground resistance style early Detroit sort of shit, like hard 909/808, like just classic drum machine, classic open close hi-hat pattern with 4 to the floor kick, you know. It's just like we got 2 minutes or so of this. It's just a really nice sort of palette. We have some of the classics, and we have some, you know, the essence of sound design, like sonified voltage, you know, just literal bits of audio, you know. Whew, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. I'm going to blow the nose on the air. Sample that. And sorry, I was kicking my my stand earlier. I just fidgeting. I gotta get a fidget spinner or something. My bad. I've moved it away. Yeah, no, I mean, you got a 2-minute version of this and you got a 12-minute version of this. What does a 5.5, 6-minute version of this look like as an arrangement? That's the question. Because I know right now you've basically created like a kick-ass tool track. You know, that's a single. Okay, great. How would you arrange that? Would it be like to scale what you've done here, just a bit more stretched out section by section? Would there be a different view of that, you know? Also curious how you arranged the 12-minute mix version of this, or was this, you know, once we're peaking, we're just staying there for a while, which would be totally reasonable. In fact, that would be, you know, maintaining it as a tool track while also, like, you know, giving us what we want without having to loop it. You know, there's some good stuff there. Yeah, this is wonderful stuff. Want to hear what you would mix with this specifically. What you would play on top of this. You wrote, "Oh, I was thinking the 2-minute and then the 12-minute as the single, and I kind of like the brutal brevity of an A-side, almost acting like a catalog sample or an advertisement, but I could definitely try a 5-minute version." Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like you could still have it, okay, 3.5, make it like a pop song's length here. And I'm not talking about a Zoomer Alpha definition of a pop song length being 90 seconds to 2 minutes. This feels too short to me, you know, but within reason a little bit more, you know, possible here. But I would just be curious, like, how you would arrange that to scale, you know? How'd it go? Loving this, though. Another banger. And I'm curious to hear more of your developments regarding a front-end public DJ project. You've been doing a lot of work in the stew, in the shed. We're about ready. We're getting there. I want to know more. So tell us more. Thank you, Breathplay. Oakley dokley. Miss B back again with yet another version of our Giallo banger. They write to us, "For the public record, another rework of the track I shared last week. I think I finally solved my pesky low-end issue, but I won't know for sure until someone with a subwoofer listens and shares thoughts. Putting one on my ever-growing studio want list. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty important if you're going to be making electronic dance music, anything with sine waves, kick drums. I mean, we can get into nitty-gritty arguments. I'm sure there are plenty of pro audio folks that would disagree. But I would say the majority of dance music, electronic music, if you're trying to make any sort of club-based music, it would be nice to emulate to some end that low-end response. So a smaller, quieter version of that, perhaps. Yeah, I got a small subwoofer in my two Yamaha monitors. I'm using headphones here, obviously, but it's when you need it, it's there. And you would be missing stuff without it. If you'd be missing stuff without it, if you're making that type of music. So, in general, a good call. You wrote, "I reamped some parts through the reel-to-reel for the vibes and character, finally feeling a little more dirty." Hell yeah. And you didn't burn down your house. That's good. But I'm curious to hear more mixing notes. Also added a little fill on the fake comeback near the end. Thanks, y'all. Hell yeah. Fainting spells, Miss B. Let's go. Very nice. Version 6, mix 6 of Fainting Spells by Miss B. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking low end, if we're talking subs, it's definitely there. It's definitely accounted for now, even compared to yesterday on the private stream. Way more audible. Loving the nuanced saturation that we're hearing here, across the board. Just kind of like a nice little, I'm assuming, master bus that we're hearing as far as where the, across the, every channel, just a light touch to that. I mean, it would be cool to get like aged tape. It would be like different grades, quality of reel to reel here. It sounds like very good reel to reel, And I agree with Karim in the chat that like the structure just feels way more deliberate and poignant. I know that you had cut some time or some of the repetition off of the A section to just make it a bit more, succinct. And we're not even like including like really the last 45 seconds, almost up to a minute of outro. That's kind of this like deconstruction, and hearing these other sort of like, delayed elements that might have been hiding the whole time start to, appear as other things sort of, dissipate and fade away, which is really nice. But like, that's why this piece is ultimately what, 5.5 minutes, 5 minutes and 10 seconds, basically. So it's still like not a short piece, but it doesn't feel superfluous, at its most repetitive moments, like it feels just right at this duration. And it feels like that much more, deliberate in your choice as far as like how many times through this one thing before we go on to the next thing, and even like the final ending too, after we sort of lay down the bigger chords and, like dum bum bum, like melodic sections to then bring back some of the original, it's a nice little structure here, and it feels that much more coherent as far as the form of the piece go, I think it's really nice. Well, if you got 3 bankers boxes full of tape from the 60s, I want to hear some natural age at points. I'm still hungry for some like audible warble, not like often, like very, even like in an intro, like some of that, like, ending with those final those things right there, hearing like a little, like that VHS chorus. There is a good plugin from Baby Audio that is just like a VHS saturator rather than like a tape deck audio saturator. It just has a bit more of what we're talking about with that. Highly do recommend Baby Audio if anybody is on the market for some like bizarre sound design mixing plugins. But yeah, definitely feels like a really nice. They're definitely aggressive on the ads, especially at Black Friday and holiday season. Avoid. The tech is listening. It knows. The second you have a DM about a plugin with someone on Instagram, then it's just like it's a wrap for you. It's absolutely a fact. Happens to me all the fucking time. As a music technologist, I hate music technology. That's what I always say. No, I mean, this is definitely getting there. The one last thing I was thinking with the bass is starting to get almost to this level, like not the subs. The subs are there, no doubt. The more bass that has like, the kind of square wavy squelching that's occurring. It's getting almost to this point that I want to treat it also like a bass guitar, in which we would send it through, I would send it through a Fender Bassman that has the spring reverb on it too. And now you're starting to get like a bit of reflection on the brighter high-end partials of that filter when it's starting to go wow, wow, wow. Like hearing that through like half a second of spring or plate, just like a brief percussive reflection would be a nice little finishing touch if it were up to me mixing that specific instrument at the end, where it becomes that much more audible on the high end on that. So suggestion there if you want to keep it going, but otherwise this feels like a huge improvement and much more finished, if you ask me. Unless we were going to add a wall of a schlocky saxophone on top of it. Just add to the giallo sex appeal to it and just have reverberated saxophone solos. Just saying. Take it or leave it. All right. Thank you, B. Okay. As a palate cleanser, you're going to hear a piece of mine that I made and being released on a compilation. The compilation is benefiting trans youth in Jamaica, specifically, where there is quite a bit of hardship that the queer community deals with. But on top of that, there is still a lot of recovery efforts being done after the hurricane this past season hit them really hard. So it's a benefit specifically for that cause, which is nice. Trying to pull up the information of the actual org here. If you bear with me, I can name it by name. Transwave Jamaica, transwaveja.org. This is a Melissa Mutual Aid compilation, Hurricane Melissa. Someone on Instagram asked me if I wanted to take part in it, and it felt like a definite worthwhile cause. So I did piano and field recording and voice, true to fashion, old school Peretsky with the auto-tune on, but specifically as an improvisation that I then mixed, trying to make a piano and a relation to voice and instrumental the same way that shoegaze is, not in the actual big sound of it, but like specifically how to tastefully let the vocals take a back seat. So they're definitely there, but they're taking a back seat. So curious what y'all think. We don't need to dwell on it, talking about it afterwards, but feel free to let me know in the chat if you want to glaze it. Appreciate y'all. That's it. That's it. Case closed. Music defeated. Yeah, man. You know, ride the levels back. I let the reverb do the talking. You know, it's as if I was speaking or singing in a speaker that was on the opposite end of the room from where the piano is, and the microphone is just picking up the ceiling directly above where that speaker, that PA speaker is reflecting, you know, toying with verb while playing very simple, effective, might I say, piano and voice combinations. Simple stuff, you know. I'm good at playing little, small, repetitive, slow things. You know, that's you do one thing, you do it effectively. You know, there's a patience. This one thing that the composition professor I had freshman year in college that we were writing on paper, and they were really pushing the atonality and stuff, and I hated that shit. And I just wanted to make drones and stuff. But like the one compliment I remember was just like, you know, Max has a good sense of space. You know, I love that negative space. I love that silence. Give me the silence. Just its own conversation between activity and lack thereof. That's my world. Welcome to my world, the world of Red Bull. Yeah, I know Liz Harris would approve. She's my goat. She's my goat. Dare I say, enjoy the silence. It had a good sense of pacing. Mainly when things changed, it felt right. It felt right. It's funny how keys like this can evoke ambient without necessarily being ambient. I mean, like, what came before ambient minimalism? What came before that? Eric Satie, let's call that proto-minimalism, furniture music, you know. There's this world out there. Impressionism. It's a beautiful thing. Liz is the goat. Liz is the goat. And yes, as Corey wrote, there's memories of Sakamoto and how much it both feels and doesn't feel like there are resolutions. Sakamoto is my goat. We could go through my collection of Sakamoto. I'll take my camera into the living room and take out the physical media, my shrine to my king, R.I.P. Salute him. You know, his son follows me on Instagram. It's an honor. It's an honor to be 1 degree separated now. It's an honor. A responsibility that I take very seriously. All right. Enough about me. We got some stuff from Karim here. We got some shorties. We got some shorties in the mix. Karim writing a couple shorties for today. Some stuff I'm messing with for the monthly project. Fantastic. I love to see the works in progress leading up to the big thing. One is all synthesized voices that I'm controlling. The other is field recordings and synth layers. All right, so we have one 11-second track and we have 1 minute and 12-second track. So we'll just go back to back here. Admonishment and Foundries 3. Let's go. I'm going to hear that one again because that was banger. I'm sorry. 11 seconds too short with just that. I'm going to play that 2 more times. I'm playing that one back too. DJ, run that back one more time. Fucking A. Fucking A. Loving this. Loving this, and specifically, and we don't know the themes yet, your who, what, when, where, and why regarding your speculative scene here. So we're just going off of sound alone right now. But what I enjoy, specifically going from the first track, which is, we could say almost absurdism level of sound mass coming from a wall of people, and there's only so many ways to interpret just wailing voices going, chromatically in a large mass down this like large portamento, this swoop that was occurring here. But then, hearing that in juxtaposition to the second track of plucking arpeggiations and, like very straightforwardly electronic music is bringing me to two composers that, started in more pop adjacent avant pop electronic worlds and have found their way into the film composing canon. And the first, and you can tell the trajectory of this thought here, judging by who the first person is and then who the second person is. The first being Mark Mothersbaugh, starting in Devo and working their way through many a film score, starting with or in the 90s with things like Rugrats. Shout outs to Mark, shout outs to Rugrats, crucial score, but an absurdist in and of themselves, and I mean, like the whole origins of Devo being that it's like punk ain't punk anymore, like we need to like take this a step further through the utilization of both like thematics and instrumentation and veering towards electronics, but there's still this playful absurdity in that. And then the latter, more contemporary, I mean, they're both contemporaries, but the younger, let's say, and you could probably guess who, would be Dan Deacon, being that he very much started in 2000s and 2010s, indie electronic pop and, plenty of humor and absurdity. And, he himself coming from an avant-garde composition background, studying at SUNY Purchase with the same professor that I studied with when I was there for almost 2 years. If you hear some of his early work, specifically, there's one called like Fishy Fishy Woo Woo, which is like a vocal piece for kids, like a text score that he prompted and conducted with a group of like preschoolers or something. And it's this whole like, wow, 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 but like a wall of kids doing this crazy wailing stuff. So it immediately actually brought me to that. And then also, yeah, you got to check out, I believe it's called Dan Deacon's Fishy Fishy Woo Woo. I'll get you the exact name here in a sec. But then comparing that to obviously both his like more like straightforwardly pop stuff that came out with like Spider-Man of the Rings, like really in his earliest Pitchfork darling days, like 2007. But then like through his film score work, because that is just like what he is doing now. He is just a full-time film score composer. What he is doing is bringing much of this, heavy arpeggiator work and sequencer based generative instrument works through a high production of sound design, but at its core is still this like electro pop, very cinematic and evocative emotionally, depending on what we're seeing. But like at the end of the day, it still sounds very much like Dan Deacon of the earliest days. The piece that I am finding, hold on. I'm going to find it for you. Fishy wishy foo foo. Fishy wishy foo foo. I'll just play a excerpt of it on the air just for fun. I don't think it's copywritten, is it? Here we go. So there you go. Fishy wishy foo foo. Dan Deacon, 2001 off of that was the Porky Pig EP. That's some classics right there, man. Just saying, Karim, knowing that you have experience also in the film scoring world, but also juxtaposing who you worked for versus this new guard, let's say, which I would even include some of Mothersburg. Like, he just doesn't strike me as the same world as some of your former employers. Like, he still feels like Dan Deacon. He still feels like a DIY guy. Mothersburg, does that make sense? But yeah, Deacon's the man. He's a good friend of mine now, and I'm honored to say that. He just sends me memes all the time. That's fucking great. But he's doing great work. I mean, it was some big Netflix show that he just did with Mark Ruffalo. What's the fucking show? Mark Ruffalo Netflix show. What's it called? No, not Always See Is Like. What's the new... hold on. Fuck. Is it a movie? What is it? Come on now. Task. That's not Netflix. That's HBO. My bad. That's why. Task on HBO. Scored by Dan Deacon. There you go. Bing, brang, broom. It was even recommended by Kylie fucking Jenner on her YouTube-y thing. Dan Deacon's getting shout-outs from Kylie Jenner. Karim wrote, I'm with you on this. I need to be more willing to sit with the film scores again. There's way more out there than what I was used to. Yeah, I mean, look, I understand the knee-jerk reaction to avoid it like the plague when you're knee-deep in the industry itself. But this is a time now where, like, I feel like many of these directors are millennial or even younger themselves. I mean, like, it starts with relationships between, what's contemporary that many of these directors are actually listening to. And I think that's why the softies just were drawn to 10 Tricks Point Never and Daniel Lopedin's work, and I think that, like, there's a lot to say about, like, some of the A24 darlings and their connections to ambient music and avant-garde music, like Colin Stetson's connection to, Robert Eggers, I think, or is it Ari Aster? I forget. They're all the fucking same to me. No, they're not. But you know what I'm saying. Anyways, we're in a golden age now. We're in a golden age of film scoring, I believe. Yeah. We do owe a lot of it to Ben Frost. I wouldn't say all of it, but we do owe a lot of it to Ben Frost. That guy been busy, crossover. But, Colin Stetson, produced by Ben Frost. So you could say some of that stuff that put Colin Stetson as a solo artist, composer on the map, very much in thanks to much of the vision that Ben Frost has as a producer, composer, engineer, Renaissance man. But anyways, loving it. Thank you, Karim. All right, playing us out. We got 2 tracks. I'm going to play one this time and one next time if you're cool with that, Torrent. I know you're somewhere. I think you're in the chat today. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Klee. A.k.a. Torrent on the Discord. Hell yeah. We're going to play one today and one next week, or one in 2 weeks, rather, because next week will be the project presentations. But yeah, welcome. You wrote 2 works in progress on the polar opposites of dub. The first one basically turns into a square wave, and the second one is dreamy and distant. We're going to start with the first one, basically turning into a square wave. Let's get it with Torrent. Brutal. That was certainly a, like you said, a trajectory upwards of a square wave. Nah, this was fucking heavy, yo. Really, really nice. And I'm enjoying what we're talking about in the chat here, like Breathplay writing. The mix is nice and dirty, which keeps this from feeling like hoary old, or is it horny? Is that what you meant? Hoary old bro step days, even though it has a talkie bass fireworks. Yes, I mean, like, I like the maximalism and the digital, overtly digital FM wobbles and harsh timbres here. Like, I would always joke with college students when I was teaching undergrads that, like, there's certain worlds in which we can, sort of, I would say, low key, inadvertently, subliminally get people into harsh noise and avant-garde and dark ambient and things like that. And there's like horror movies is one, dubstep is another, an American dubstep specifically, and its fascination with just pushing limitations as far as like sonic acceptability before, like, you turn into that Key and Peele sketch where people just their nose just starts bleeding and they just start having seizures. But I also agree with, like, the idea of, like, how can we make this a bit more, saturated in an analog sort of sounding way. And I think it's like the key is finding a way of, like, merging it with the, in the more traditional UK fashion of like UK dubstep in relation to dub music, and specifically like tape echo and spring reverb on percussive elements, finding ways to bring out the almost rim shotiness that you have in your snare through, like, spring reverb, and specifically, like, timed echo, timed tape delay emulator, things like that to me, and maybe it's occasional sample drop of, like, a literal, like, rim shot snare that we hear oftentimes in UK dubstep, things like that, to just take us slightly out of the, intrinsically very digital sort of sound here. And then, like, through a master bus, like, not necessarily like tape emulator saturation, but some sort of tubey, tapey, potentially analog emulation on the master bus to sort of just bring it all together through this coloration, as we say, like the tone color that you can, get. Because right now it is, very cold as part of this digital sound. And it's very glassy. It's very bright when it needs to be, but it's also very dark when it needs to be. It's almost perfect in the digital sort of in the box way. And what I'm talking about is seeking that imperfection, that we find often just by chance in the analog sort of side of things. So I don't know, finding ways to just bring out that imperfection that comes out of the box would be a nice little suggestion there, how you do it. And what do we got here? Karim recommending the mid-side plugin, free great version from Good Hertz. Mid-side, which might help you work with saturating the low end. Mid-side from Good Hertz. You're saying the wobbles and sub at the beginning are the fours pivot VST. Fours. I know fours. I know them. The nasty stuff is a bunch of over-distorted Euro rack. Well, that's beautiful. I love that we got some, hardware making this sort of shit in there. Maybe that's what it is, though, is that it's like just direct DIY hardware that's entirely, straight from the box. When if we had a tube preamp we could send it to directly in. I don't know. Just a way to warm it up slightly. It just feels cold to me in the mix. But make it more Jamaican too. Everything's good with a little more Jamaican seasoning on it. A little jerk chicken on that would be nice. Just put some jerk sauce. Stop. Get your mind out of the gutter. Jerk chicken sauce on the fucking Euro rack. Just pour it on there, you know? Some Caribbean seasoning. That'd be nice, you know? We're at the time now where, you know, Skrillex is having a second career and is playing so much fucking UK dubstep right now. It's just like the bridge has been made and there's no excuse not to be incorporating both elements now. Skrillex is having his Criterion Collection moment. At one point was strictly for the bros, then it became a cult status, and now it's become high art. You know? This is the canon. This is the canon of American art, or Western art. It's how it is. He has atoned for his sins. I love it. Yes. And then there's Four Tets on stage with Fred again. You know, we just got to allow it. The kids are getting weirder. We must allow the kids to get weirder. Early 2010s was a painful time for millennials in this sort of juxtaposition of interesting club music and very much not interesting club music. And we should have a screening of the Zac Efron EDM movie that came out. What was that called? Was it called BPM? Who remembers that? Anybody? The Zac Efron EDM movie? It was a classic, you know? What's the name of that fucking movie? Someone help me, please. Oh, man. You're going to make me look this shit up? Because we're going to have to watch it. We're going to have to do a movie club. Zac Efron EDM movie. We Are Your Friends. We Are Your Friends. 2015. Young Cole Carter dreams of hitting the big time as a Hollywood disc jockey, spending his days and nights hanging with buddies and working on that one track that will set the world on fire. You know, he should have joined Group Critique Fight Club. Opportunity comes knocking when he meets James Reed, a charismatic DJ who takes the 23-year-old under his wing. Soon, his seemingly clear path to success gets complicated when he starts falling for his mentor's girlfriend, jeopardizing his new friendship and the future he seems destined to fulfill. Yo. Sounds like a perfect movie to me. And then just like a kick-ass mid-2010s EDM soundtrack to top it all off. We're past that. We've atoned for our sins. Skrillex has atoned for his sins. Anyways, thank you for sending that over, Torrent. Lovely stuff. Lovely, lovely stuff from everybody this week. Get those monthly projects in. We'll be back at it next Monday. We won't be meeting on Sunday on the Patreon this coming weekend. I got a gig that evening. Unfortunately, I got to block off the afternoon for that. So I will see y'all a week from today, where we have Joshua Eustis talking about listening to, critiquing your monthly projects. Get them in. Hope y'all have a wonderful week. Keep making tunes. Keep being creative. Keep fighting the good fight. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another edition of Group Critique Fight Club with me, Max Alper, aka Peretsky. You can sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/Peretsky to get access to our Sunday Zoom school on top of the regular live public stream. Public stream takes place every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. All are welcome. And you are listening to the track Atop Alpdog Mountain, Ja Plays Pokemon Go by me.